Reflections of a Simple American. Brought to you by Spirituality. Episode 1. George Washington's Farewell Address. Greetings, fellow citizen, and welcome. The journey we are about to take together explores one of the most enduring addresses given by one of the founding fathers of our nation, George Washington. As the first President of the United States of America, Washington set the standard for the office in many ways. While he was not a perfect man, his leadership during the Revolutionary War and throughout his 2 presidential terms established a lasting example of public service. This presentation features a reading of George Washington's farewell address, written with the assistance of Alexander Hamilton and delivered near the end of Washington's 2nd term as president. Interwoven throughout the reading will be a modern, reflective, and nonpartisan interpretation intended to help illuminate the historical context and enduring principles found within this remarkable document. In keeping with the spirit of Washington's message, these reflections strive to be guided by restraint, impartiality, and a sincere desire to encourage thoughtful consideration rather than division.
A personal note from the author. In today's world, there are many voices, all loudly competing for our attention and support. The internet especially can be a place where quiet reflection is often difficult to find. My goal is to provide a place of peaceful reflection, a place to hear and thoughtfully consider the words of our nation's first and one of its most influential presidents. I cannot remember exactly what first led me to read this address. Most likely I came across a quote that struck me as profound and decided to investigate its source. As I read through the farewell address, many of Washington's messages resonated deeply within me. They felt like the heartfelt counsel of a leader nearing the end of his public service, a man who had genuinely loved his country, its land, and the people who called it home. I found many of these messages to be just as relevant today as they were when they were first written, and I felt inspired to share them with anyone willing to take this journey through history alongside me. Whether you agree with every conclusion or simply come seeking to better understand one of America's most influential historical documents, I invite you to slow down, stay a while, and share in the quiet ambiance and thoughtful reflection of George Washington's words.
Chapter 1. Retirement and Stewardship. Friends and fellow citizens, the period for a new election of a citizen to administer the executive government of the United States being not far distant, and the time actually arrived, when your thoughts must be employed designating the person who is to be clothed with that important trust, it appears to me proper, especially as it may conduce to a more distinct expression of the public voice, that I should now apprise you of the resolution I have formed, to decline being considered among the number of those out of whom a choice is to be made. I beg you at the same time to do me the justice to be assured that this resolution has not been taken without a strict regard to all the considerations appertaining to the relation which binds a dutiful citizen to his country, and that in withdrawing the tender of service, which silence in my situation might imply, I am influenced by no diminution of zeal for your future interest, no deficiency of grateful respect for your past kindness, but am supported by a full conviction that the step is compatible with both. The acceptance of, and continuance hitherto in, the office to which your suffrages have twice called me, have been a uniform sacrifice of inclination to the opinion of duty, and to a deference for what appeared to be your desire. I constantly hoped that it would have been much earlier in my power, consistently with motives which I was not at liberty to disregard, to return to that retirement from which I had been reluctantly drawn. The strength of my inclination to do this, previous to the last election, had even led to the preparation of an address to declare it to you. But mature reflection on the then perplexed and critical posture of our affairs with foreign nations, and the unanimous advice of persons entitled to my confidence, impelled me to abandon the idea. I rejoice that the state of your concerns, external as well as internal, no longer renders the pursuit of inclination incompatible with the sentiment of duty or propriety, and am persuaded, whatever partiality may be retained for my services, that, in the present circumstances of our country, you will not disapprove my determination to retire. The impressions with which I first undertook the arduous trust were explained on the proper occasion. In the discharge of this trust, I will only say that I have, with good intentions, contributed towards the organization and administration of the government the best exertions of which a very fallible judgment was capable. Not unconscious in the outset of the inferiority of my qualifications, experience in my own eyes, perhaps still more in the eyes of others, has strengthened the motives to diffidence of myself. And every day the increasing weight of years admonishes me more and more that the shade of retirement is as necessary to me as it will be welcome. Satisfied that, if any circumstances have given peculiar value to my services, they were temporary, I have the consolation to believe that while choice and prudence invite me to quit the political scene, patriotism does not forbid it. In looking forward to the moment, which is intended to terminate the career of my public life, my feelings do not permit me to suspend the deep acknowledgement of that debt of gratitude, which I owe to my beloved country for the many honors it has conferred upon me, still more for the steadfast confidence with which it has supported me, and for the opportunities I have thence enjoyed of manifesting my inviolable attachment by services faithful and persevering, though in usefulness unequal to my zeal. If benefits have resulted to our country from these services, let it always be remembered to your praise, and as an instructive example in our annals, that under circumstances in which the passions, agitated in every direction, were liable to mislead, amidst appearances sometimes dubious, vicissitudes of fortune often discouraging, in situations in which not unfrequently want of success has countenanced the spirit of criticism, the constancy of your support was the essential prop of the efforts and a guarantee of the plans by which they were effected. Profoundly penetrated with this idea, I shall carry it with me to my grave as a strong incitement to unceasing vows that heaven may continue to you the choicest tokens of its beneficence, that your union and brotherly affection may be perpetual, that the free constitution, which is the work of your hands, may be sacredly maintained, that its administration in every department may be stamped with wisdom and virtue, then, in fine, the happiness of the people of these states, under the auspices of liberty, may be made complete by so careful a preservation and so prudent a use of this blessing, as will acquire to them the glory of recommending it to the applause, the affection, and adoption of every nation, which is yet a stranger to it. Here, perhaps, I ought to stop, but a solicitude for your welfare which cannot end but with my life, and the apprehension of danger, natural to that solicitude, urge me, on an occasion like the present, to offer to your solemn contemplation and to recommend to your frequent review some sentiments which are the result of much reflection, of no inconsiderable observation, and which appear to me all important to the permanency of your felicity as a people. These will be offered to you with the more freedom, as you can only see in them the disinterested warnings of a parting friend who can possibly have no personal motive to bias his counsel. Nor can I forget, as an encouragement to it, your indulgent reception of my sentiments on a former and not dissimilar occasion. Interpretation and reflection.
To begin this first section of the address, Washington starts in earnest, speaking directly about his desire to retire. I appreciate that he begins by simply stating that it is time to elect another citizen. To me, this subtly suggests that he still viewed himself first as a citizen and had not placed himself upon a pedestal above others. He then plainly states that he will not be seeking another term in office. As he continues into the second paragraph, he explains that this decision was the result of thoughtful consideration. He makes it clear that it was not born out of a lack of love for his country, its people, or the office itself. In fact, he expresses deep gratitude to the American people for the trust and kindness they showed him throughout his service. In the third paragraph, Washington centralizes duty as the theme. He reveals that he had hoped to retire earlier and had even prepared a farewell address after his first term. However, after careful reflection and counsel from others, he chose to remain in office because of the uncertain circumstances facing the young nation of the United States of America. As he continues through paragraph 4, by the time of this address, Washington believes the nation had reached a greater degree of stability. Because of this, he no longer feels any conflict between his sense of duty, the wishes of the people, and his personal desire to retire from public office. In paragraph 5, Washington returns once more to the subject of duty. He reflects on the beginning of his presidency, acknowledging both his inexperience and his own shortcomings, while also recognizing that he was aware of them from the start. Through years of service, experience, reflection, and reliance upon others, he grew in his ability to fulfill the office, even as the weight and burdens of that responsibility became increasingly apparent. Washington also mentions that at times he would rely on the counsel of others. He closes his portion by reinforcing that retiring from public office does not diminish his patriotism or his continued love for his country. In paragraph 6, while Washington looks forward to his retirement from public service and a new beginning to living as a private citizen, he can't help but to express his feelings of deep gratitude for the American people and country, for the support that was given during his tenure. He speaks of the joy that his service brought him, and that he hopes that his efforts, which he feels didn't measure up to his passion regarding his stewardship, yet nonetheless, he hopes that they will have provided great benefit to all, and that they would be praised and used as an example in future times, that these actions would outshine all efforts to discredit him in future times. He then continues on with strong spiritual wording, expressing almost a blessing of types upon the nation that he loves, which transitions directly into discussion of the Constitution. Begin quote, "Heaven may continue to you the choicest tokens of your beneficence, that your union and brotherly affection may be perpetual, that the free Constitution, which is the work of your hands, may be sacredly maintained, that its administration in every department may be stamped with wisdom and virtue, then in fine, the happiness of the people of these United States under the auspices of liberty may be made complete by so careful a preservation and so prudent a use of this blessing. It will acquire to them the glory of recommending it to the applause, the affection, and adoption of every nation which is yet a stranger to it." Close quote. To me, this speaks of his hope that we will sacredly maintain our country, and especially our Constitution, and that we may shine our light to all nations as a beacon, not just to attain affection from other countries, but to serve as an inspiration and an invitation by example for them to follow. At the point we reach paragraph 7, Washington then begins to shift in his address away from his own retirement and towards the future and welfare of the nation and people therein. He starts to set up the framework of the address going forward, mentioning that there are some points he'd like to share, from warnings to counsel, that he deems will be applicable to the country even after he is long gone. I like the point that he makes about his own special interest here, which he likens to that of a disinterested warnings of a parting friend. I believe that he isn't saying these things for his own gain, be it political or otherwise, rather out of a more pure and simple intent, untinted by secondary motives.